Happy Halloween, boys and girls, and welcome to another edition of Going to Bed with Mike and Steve. I'm Mike.
And I'm Steve.
And I have a question for you, Steve, before we begin
Yes.
with all of the Goosebumps shenanigans. So I'm looking here where we've described it before, that we're in kind of like a little blanket fort, and we've got a couple of Halloween decorations in here to lift our holiday spirits and
Quite nice. Quite nice.
Spirits. It's like a double entendre. It's like a joke, you know. It's like a Halloween
Spirits,
joke.
but spirits, ghouls,
right? It's Halloween
energy.
spirit, but Halloween spirit's like a ghost.
Wow.
It's a pretty good one. Anyway, one of the things that we have in here is one of those orange plastic pumpkin pails that you go trick or treating with. And one of the things I'm wondering is that most of them, this one. Not really, but there's that one very specific, every year you go into the grocery store and you see the plastic pumpkin pails, but they're all made from the same mold. They all look exactly the same year after year. They have for the 25 years that I've been alive, and I'm sure that they were the same way before that. Now, that mold had to have come from an original, carving, an original sculpture, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that the guy who originally sculpted that had a contract where he's like, 1 cent for every one of these sold? I mean, that dude would be a friggin' billionaire.
He would be super rich, yeah.
I'm just wondering if that guy gets money for that, or if he's sitting there every year going, oh no.
And when was that original design?
Right, was it from it's
And
probably
from whom?
The 60s or the 70s, right?
He was genius.
Yep, who knew that would catch on the way that it did? The one that we have in here is a variation.
It's a little more detailed in certain ways.
Yeah, he's a little more expressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I do see these ones in there, too. There's usually less of these. There's like about 20 of these, and then you got a fucking 150 of the other ones.
Yeah.
Anywho, I was just wondering about that. If there's anybody out there who wants to do a little bit of research and find out about that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, let's move on to Chapter 30 of Goosebumps, number 42, Egg Monsters from Mars by R.L. Stine.
Things are getting crazy. We have an adult trying to kill a child.
And actually kill him. I mean, literally the last line was...
He said this.
I had hoped to keep you alive, but I see now that is impossible. Chapter 30. He dragged me to the door.
Get over here.
He dragged me to the door. He stopped and reached into the pocket of his lab coat, reached for the control unit to open the door. I saw my chance. He had me by only one hand. With a hard burst of strength, I kicked him right in the cojones. I pulled away. He let out a cry, reached both hands for me, missed. I ran to the other side of the lab. I turned at the wall to face him. He had a strange smile on his face. Dana, there's nowhere to run, he said softly. My eyes flashed around the room. I don't know what I was searching for. I had seen it all, and I knew that he was telling the truth. Dr. Gray stood blocking the only door. The long window was too heavy and thick to break through, and it didn't open. There were no other windows, no other doors, no way to escape.
None.
What are you gonna do now, Dana? Dr. Dre asked softly. The strange smile stuck on his face.
Now he's getting a look. What are you gonna do now, Dana?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? I'd like to see. Actually, I'm very interested to see what you plan on doing. Go ahead, try. It'd be interesting for me. Honestly, it wouldn't be that.
I think Dr. Dre is liking this.
His blue eyes locked coldly on mine. What are you gonna do? I opened my mouth to reply, but I had nothing to say. I'll tell you what's gonna happen, Dr. Dre said softly, calmly.
Boy. Let me tell you my plan.
There is nothing says that a villain is going to get away with their dastardly plot than a big monologue explaining what they plan on doing. You're going to stay in here, in this cold, cold room. I'm going to leave you now and make sure you're locked in. His smile grew wider. Then do you know what I'm going to do? Do you? What? I choked out. I'm going to make it colder in here. I'm going to make it colder than a freezer. No! I protested. His smile faded. I trusted you, Dana. I trusted you, but you broke that trust. You let them touch you. You let them form this carpet. This is actual dialogue from Goosebumps number 42, Egg Monsters from Mars.
He touched them himself.
You allowed them to touch you. You allowed them to form this carpet. You ruined them, Dana. You ruined my egg monsters. Oh man, he's like, I wanted them to form a blanket and touch me. Okay, the whole reason I brought them in here was because I was so lonely, but now you've defiled them. They are disgusting. I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, but I would touch you with a 10-foot pole, provided that at the end of it, there was a cattle prod that would shock you into hell.
They like you better than me.
They like you better than me? Well, if I can't have them, then no one can. I didn't do anything, I stammered. I balled my hands into a fist, but I felt so helpless and afraid. You can't freeze me in here, I cried. I didn't do anything. You can't leave me in here to freeze. Of course I can, Dr. Dre replied coldly. This is my lab, my own little world. I can do whatever I want.
I am God.
I am God. He pulled the little black remote unit from his lab coat pocket. He pointed it at the door and pushed a button. The door swung open. He started to leave. Goodbye, Dana, he called.
Is he still with the egg monsters?
Yeah, he is still with the egg monsters.
So it's like, it doesn't matter how cold you're going to make them, you're going to make the egg monsters more active.
Right, and he knows that. Right, yeah, I haven't been quite sure about
I was thinking maybe
them being in the same room from the beginning, especially because when when Dana's dad was there, they walked into several other lab rooms, right? So he could have locked Dana anywhere. But no, he's like, children like the cold, right?
Sure, so
if I really don't want the egg monsters to touch another human being,
just leave them with the egg monsters.
I'll just put them in there. That won't it doesn't make any sense. This guy is a loon. He's not even good at being a mad scientist. Chapter 31. No, stop, I called. Dr. Gray turned from the doorway, and as he turned, the blanket of creatures rose up. It stood straight up and flung itself over him. It dropped on top of the scientist with a hard thud. Hey, he let out a cry. This is exactly what I wanted all along. Oh, you do love me.
Oh, thank you.
Now I realize that they were just blanketing you to make me jealous. Oh, you boys thought that I forgot about you because I left you all alone in this room. No, I thought you liked it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought triangle meant, yes, I totally want to stay in this room. But now I understand that would have been a square. Oh, no, you wanted to come with me. You wanted to be my comforter. You wanted to drape yourself all over me. You wanted to get your sticky mush and goo in every orifice and every pore. Oh, this is perfect, Dana, perfect.
I love each and every one of you, 7 or 20 or 30 or 60, however many there are of you.
However many of you there are, I love each and every one of you equally. The cry was muffled by the heavy yellow blanket of egg creatures. The egg blanket covered him. I watched him struggle underneath it, and I listened to his muffled cries. He was
interesting.
He was squirming and twisting beneath the blanket, but he couldn't toss it off and he couldn't slide out from under it. He crumpled to the floor and the blanket crumpled with him. I watched it seething and bubbling on top of him.
Is it gonna burn him?
Then I didn't wait another second. I took a deep breath and I ran across the room. I darted past the egg blanket with Dr. Dre twisting and thrashing underneath it. Oh yes! Oh yes! Oh yes! It's everything I ever
I'm no longer lonely.
Anymore. I'm not lonely anymore, boys. I ran out the door, down the long hall. I want you to show me. I ran out the door, down the long hall, and to the front of the lab. Yes! A few seconds later, I pushed open the front door and burst outside, breathing hard, sucking in the sweet, fresh air. A beautiful morning, a red ball of sun still rising over the spring green trees, the sky clear and blue. I glanced around. I could see a paperboy on his bike halfway up the block.
Wow! Hey, paperboy! It's like, Scrooge waking up from Dave Crispy like, what day is this? You over there, boy! Hello there!
What day is it? Sunday! Well, I tell you what, here's 50 cents. Deliver one of those Sunday newspapers to my house.
The egg monsters did it all in one night. I knew they could. Right, Paperboy?
Well, yeah, that's all fine, but about this 50 cents, yeah, Sunday edition's $1.50. Fuck you, Paperboy! Bye. A beautiful morning, a red ball of sun still rising over the spring green trees, the sky clear and blue. I turned and ran around to the side of the building. The grass smelled so wonderful, the morning air so warm and fresh. I was so thrilled to be outside. I had to get home. I had a hunch, and the hunch was right. I spotted my bike resting against the back wall of the lab, hidden by a large dumpster.
So he could see it right then and there, but his parents couldn't when they were
Well,
looking.
yeah, it sounded like his dad looked all around for it, and he just hid it behind a dumpster.
And he left outside and was like, there it is.
Well, I mean, yeah, he walked around, he saw it behind the dumpster as though it had been hidden, but his dad was saying that maybe Dana had snuck into the lab, in which case Dana probably would have hidden his bike.
Right.
Oh, that dad is not a sleuth. I leaped. Also, dumpster. Is dumpster another one of those things that's copywritten? Because
It's a capital D.
Dumpster is capitalized.
A large...
indicating a proper noun, Steve.
A large bin in which you dump...
Large aluminum bin. I leaped onto it and started to pedal. Riding a bike never felt as exciting, so thrilling. I was getting away from the horror of the crazy Dr. Dre and his freezing lab. I pedaled faster. I rode without stopping, without seeing. The world was a blur of green. I must have set a speed record for getting home.
Yes, he did. World record.
World record. I roared up the driveway, the tires sending gravel flying on both sides. Then I jumped off my bike and let it topple to the grass. I dove for the kitchen door and burst into the kitchen. "Mom!" I cried. She jumped up from the breakfast table. I caught the worried expression on her face. It melted away as I ran into the room. "Dana," she cried, "where were you? We've all been so terrified. The police are looking for you, and I'm okay," I told her. I gave her a quick hug.
You're not going to tell her where you were?
Yeah, I know. That should be the first thing. It's like, Dad came to the lab and I was there and I was screaming, but Dr. Dre wouldn't let me out. I would probably cry. Like, these children, they don't have any sort of post-traumatic stress from these situations, but I would, Dad ran in from the hallway. "Dana, you're okay. Where were you all night? Your mother and I..." "Egg monsters," I cried. "Egg monsters from Mars. Hurry!" I grabbed Dad's hand and tugged him. "Come on." "Dana, what did we tell you about the eggs?"
"Now we won't believe whatever you do say."
"Huh?" Dad spun around. He narrowed his eyes, studying me. "What did you say?" "No time to explain," I gasped. "They've got Dr. Dre. He's evil, Dad. He's so evil." "Who was what?" Mom demanded. "The egg creatures from Mars. Hurry, there's no time." They didn't move. I saw them exchange glances.
Now, I do blame the adults in most situations, but the kids are also terrible at, what do I start with?
Right. Egg monsters from Mars!
Oh, the monsters! It's
Yeah.
like, no, wait, just break it down.
Dad, remember yesterday when you came to the lab and there was that one room you didn't go into? I was trapped inside that. That's exactly what he should say.
At least start with.
They didn't move. I saw them exchange glances. Mom stepped forward and placed a hand on my forehead. "Do you have a fever, Dana? Are you sick?"
Never mind that you were gone for the whole day.
"No!" I screamed. "Listen to me. Egg creatures from Mars. Follow me." I know I wasn't explaining myself too well, but I was frantic. "Dana, come lie down," Mom instructed.
He realizes it.
"I'll call Dr. Martin." "No, please, I don't need a doctor," I protested. "Just follow me, okay? You've got to see them. You've got to see the egg creatures. You've got to hurry." Mom and Dad exchanged worried glances again. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy!
I'm not crazy!
I shrieked. "I want you to come with me to the science lab." Okay, Dad finally agreed. "You were in that lab last night?" "Yes," I told him, shoving him to the kitchen door. "I called and called, but you couldn't hear me." "Oh, wow," Dad murmured, shaking his head.
Weird.
"Wow."
Impressive.
The three of us climbed into the car. It took about 3 minutes to drive to the lab. Dad parked in front. I jumped out of the car before he stopped. The front door to the lab stood wide open as I'd left it. I ran inside with Mom and Dad close behind me. "They're egg creatures," I told them breathlessly. "They dropped down from Mars. They captured Dr. Dre."
Do you think they're there? Or did they leave?
I led the way down the hall. I pushed open the door to the freezing back room. Mom and Dad stepped in behind me. I gazed around the room and gasped in amazement. And that is all that we have time for tonight, Steve. Tomorrow night,
figure it out.
The thrilling conclusion of Egg Monsters from Mars. Goosebumps number 42 by R.L. Stein. We will, we'll be finishing the book tomorrow night. So, good night, Steve.
Good night, Mike. Good night, everybody.